Welcome back to another Wrongtown history learning moment.
The year is 1512, and the popular understanding of politics is that it's two big buckets, good bucket and bad bucket. And a brave pioneer, Artemis van der Rong, proposes a bold theory that changes the world forever.
The theory itself was simple. Politics is not just two buckets, it's a line. And it's not only a line, it's a line with infinite points along the line between good and bad. Essentially, he was proposing the first political gradient.
You have to understand how revolutionary this was at the time. The idea that there could be infinite points on a single line rather than just 2 points floating in space next to each other was the equivalent of suggesting that dogs could be president.
Artemis van der Rong faced incredible amounts of scorn. He was rejected, humiliated, laughed out of the academy. But he doggedly stuck to his ideas and never wavered for his entire life on his view that politics could be more than just two buckets.
It was very easy to stay committed his whole life because he unfortunately did not live much longer. He was arrested for seditious conspiracy, put into the bad bucket, and sent to jail where he shortly after died of jail-related flu.
On the day that he died, thousands of people celebrated in the streets with the slogan, "Another bad one bites the dust," and the day of his death was made a holiday.
Little did they know that generations later, his words would inspire a new generation of chartographers to think even beyond the line. And that holiday would eventually be retroactively turned into a celebration of the man, Political Gradient Day, and the political order that deprived him of life and liberty, pretended to always be on his side, and that he was never tortured and persecuted by the society. The end.
Thanks for listening. That was another Wrongtown history story time moment from our heritage. Welcome back to another Wrongtown history learning moment.
Today's story is William the Terrible, the man who drove Wrongtown into a 10-day madness. The thing you gotta understand about Wrongtown at this time was everyone had to take a mandatory placement test onto a political chart. There's a y-axis and an x-axis, not unlike a political compass, but with different values on it. And it was sort of believed by everyone that how you place on that test is who you are.
People just took it for granted. The chart and reality were the exact same thing. The way society was set up, the results on your test determined your job and therefore your income, just overall your place in society.
William the Terrible, spiteful little bastard he was, wasn't enough to just get his test, go home and accept it, accept the values you've been assigned. No, not William the Terrible. What he said was, in addition to the y-axis and the x-axis, maybe charts go further. A third axis, a z-axis, making not just a plot of a quad, but a cube made of 8 smaller cubes. The consequences were disastrous.
People all around society really took to the idea that there could be a third axis, and the way that it increased the complexity of politics seemed revelatory at first. Almost immediately, debates began about what the third axis might represent. The first two were firmly codified by society. Everybody knew what the first two axes were. But that third one, what could it mean? Well, that turned out to be a question that tore Wrongtown apart.
For 10 long days of madness, the people of Wrongtown cast down their tools and stopped working, cast down their toys and stopped playing, and committed to an all-out war of all against all over the fundamental debate of what the Z-axis could stand for. It eventually got to the point where William the Terrible and his legion of people who read the headline but not the article stormed the office building of a beloved slave master and stole their laptop.
In order to ensure society never fell into this sort of fervor again, the government clamped down on any and all charts that didn't meet the rigorous two-axis with specific label standards. And for whipping this crowd into a frenzy through his proposed third axis and the theft of that beloved laptop, William the Terrible was sentenced to death. The day William the Terrible was executed was marked as a grim holiday of reminder of the terrible human cost that can come from thinking outside the one true chart.
It's a special day marked each and every year to sit down and think inside that chart. Think inside it long and think inside it deep and believe it. Believe it's true. That's what that holiday is about. And it makes me proud to live in Wrongtown, just to think about it. It's just so beautiful. Wrongtown history. Thank you.
That was another Wrongtown history learning moment. Welcome back to another Wrongtown history moment from our heritage.
It is with great sadness that we at Wrongtown History have to announce legendary military general Gren Grenston has died at the age of 101. She was an incredible military general, and any historian will tell you the reason that Gren Grenston is our favorite legendary general of the city-state of Wrongtown is that she ruthlessly suppressed any and all charts that extended beyond the second dimension, anything that brought any sort of color elements or other doors to chaos, not being a square, having mislabeled axes, charts beyond that. It's too hard to keep that in your head, especially more than one. And Gren Grenston knew that, and that's what made her an incredible and ruthless military commander. She upheld that chart, keeping everything orderly so Wrongtown can compete in the intermunicipal sphere. She used ruthless military force to crack down on anything that would challenge that. 5-dimensional charts, 7-dimensional charts, 2 3-dimensional charts that work together, charts made up of other little charts, charts that have color elements or pattern elements. Some of these things had so many sliders with so many variables, it wasn't even clear what kind of shape they were at all. During the spherical chart crisis, her deft hand and smart-as-a-whip leadership resulted in the detention or execution of 15,000 criminals. Wow. Without you, Gren, I honestly don't know how we're going to hold these back. Gren Grenston, we at Wrongtown History salute you for your sacrifice to protect the sacred charts we grew up with, the true charts that actually connect to reality, and no amount of blood spilled is too much to protect that. Gren Grenston, you were our rock. You are our favorite. We are going to be naming this day after her. It is now a holiday. Thank you.
That was another Wrongtown history learning moment. Welcome back to another Wrongtown history learning moment.
This story starts at the end of a prolonged state of peace in Wrongtown. What had happened earlier was the political compass was overthrown by a political cube with a Z-axis. Yeah, that happened. And the cube order was stable for quite some time, but ended up being overthrown by the order of the pyramid made of tiny cubes. It was discovered by the wrong boys. First, it was rejected. Eventually, it was accepted to be the map that best matched the evidence. Wrongtown embraced it fully, and there was hundreds of years of peace and prosperity. And that's where Wrongtown history comes in. What happens next?
It was Inauguration Day, and the new Supreme Commander of Wrongtown, Brendald W. Squint, who had been swept into office on a wave of popular support, massive numbers in the election, was seen as a figure of hope and change. On the day of their inauguration, they were called into an office for a secret meeting with head government scientists and the heads of the intelligence agencies. We know this from secret journals leaked after their death. And what they were told was that the pyramid made up of tiny cubes, the basis of Wrongtown's sense of itself and sense of the people within it was, according to new scientific discoveries, actually a lie. These heads of intelligence agencies, the scientists, they didn't know whether to reveal this to the public, cause incredible amounts of chaos, or continue the facade that the pyramid tiny cube chart was true, a type of noble lie.
This posed a serious ethical and strategic dilemma for Brendald W. Squint. They campaigned on evidence-based policy. The pyramid made of tiny cubes was featured in a lot of their campaign materials. They deliberated for a long time, making long walks around the mayoral office, glancing over the city, looking at the portraits of the previous mayors for inspiration, thinking about what they would want, what they intended when they framed this all in the first place. And ultimately, Commander W. Squint decided to tell the noble lie. Hide the truth for the good of the people, because the threat of reintroducing chaos into the system could be disastrous. You know, the old legend of 10 days of madness, something you've been told since you were a kid. Lying about the shape of politics would mean that babies would get fed on time, medicine would get moving through pill bottles, the whole system would keep working, and they weren't willing to throw that into disarray on the possibility of letting people know the truth, that the map doesn't match the territory. In my personal opinion, it was a heroic decision by a great statesman that was very soon after disrupted by someone else, someone bad.
The commander, for their part, called it the greatest mistake of their career. Now, it's unclear who exactly leaked the secret, but the secret got out, and specifically it got out to W. Squint's greatest political rival, Alabani Tobacco, who, with this information, was able to exploit this well-meaning politician who was trying to keep society running. But nevertheless, the fact that he wasn't telling the truth opened him up to a massive and unexpected challenge from Tobacco in the next campaign for mayor. Tobacco ran an anti-establishment campaign saying things like the pyramid of the hoax and we need to investigate the tiny cubes, releasing reports, and a lot of it was misinformation, but there was a kernel of truth to it, which was that the chart didn't match the world.
Brendel W. Squint, sensing the emergency, resigned in disgrace for fibbing about the charts. Their final act in office to inscribe the truth, the whole truth, about what we do and don't know about charts, onto stone tablets at City Hall. In the end, Tobacco's outsider campaign was halted in its tracks by cancel culture gone mad, and Squint's deputy mayor, Himbo Bacon, took control in the town without a chart. But this time, being a town without a chart wasn't just a popular idiom, a common metaphor used in day-to-day life. It was real. A literal town with no chart.
And so, while the scientists and the philosophers had already begun the work of devising new and hopefully more perfect charts, many of the citizens of Wrongtown felt aimless. They didn't know how to exist in a town where, for the first time in thousands of years, there was no official, legal, political chart that everyone believed was objectively true. It scared people. But there was also hope. Moving into this uncharted territory of the future, there was a real possibility for things to unfold in ways that could increase understanding of the world and of each other. And so that hope kept them moving forward. It was just a dream at that point, an idea that a perfect chart could be built and that it would chart the way towards a perfect society. Thanks for listening. That was another Wrongtown history moment from our heritage. Next time on Wrongtown Future History Moment, we play audio believed to be from futuristic scientists in a futuristic lab working to find the true, real shape of politics. Learning about geometry has really expanded my horizons for what's possible here. At first I thought politics must be a pentagonal prism, then for a while I was thinking octagonal pyramid, but now I really think it might be a hyperboloid.
My leading theory at this moment is that good politics is like a donut-like torus wrapped around a hyperboloid, and they never touch, and the hyperboloid is the bad politics. Taurus is the good. They never quite touch.
Oh my god, I saw the same thing in a dream. Because hyperboloids, of course, are like an hourglass shape. If you put a torus around it, it can fit in there in a way, but not touch.
And if you zoom in really close, they're made up of octagonal pyramids, where the point of the octagonal pyramid is either something purely good or purely bad, depending on whether they're in the torus or the hyperboloid.
In my dream, the torus was actually spinning, and depending on what time of year it it was different types of bad politics interacted with different types of good politics in different ways.
That matches some of the most advanced political chart theory right now, which is saying that whether or not politics are good is actually partially based on the time of day and the time of year.
What do you think about this other upstart theory that it's a rhombicosidodecahedron?
Oh, that's just nonsense.
Yeah.
No, we all have our limits, and for me, it's the rhombicosidodecahedron. I just don't think that's part of the shape of politics. Call me old-fashioned.
The whole Archimedean solid contingent on this, like, oh, it's got to be a convex uniform polyhedra. I think they're all ideologues.
Yeah, on the political chart, from good political chart makers to pedophiles, they're definitely on the pedophile side.
Well, let's get to work writing these findings up. I think they're very compelling.
Absolutely. No, I'm completely compelled right now and thrilled.
And that's natural, because this is thrilling, compelling stuff, so I don't blame you for feeling that way.
Thank you for not I was worried, I was a little bit self-conscious that you were going to say, oh, it's not appropriate, but now that you're actually saying it's appropriate, there's a load off my shoulders and I can focus on the work.